Before we start using contracts, we want to know what they are. In less than 5 minutes, we'll cover the fundamentals. This will include the definition of a contract, the main ingredients of a contract, verbal and written contracts, obligations, and what enforced by law means. Now, there are various definitions of what a contract actually is. A good one is an agreement giving rise to obligations which are enforced or recognized by law. Contracts can range in their complexity. They can be short and simple or long and complicated. But regardless of their size, there will need to be some key ingredients present. These are offer, acceptance, consideration, and the intent to create legal relations. If you don't have these, you don't have a contract. Contracts can be verbal or written, providing that the main ingredients are in place. An obvious problem with verbal contracts is proving what was in the contract, and firstly, did a contract actually exist? You need to prove that all the ingredients were there in the first place. So this is why a written contract is always recommended. Let's take a closer look at the ingredients. Offer and acceptance. These must be clear and certain. Signing a written contract which clearly shows offer and acceptance will usually satisfy this requirement. Consideration, which is known as the price of another's promise. This will be the agreed sum of money for the product or service. There has to be some value, which is why we hear about companies on the brink of collapse being purchased for £1 or $1. This is often referred to as nominal consideration. Finally, there needs to be some intent that the parties entering into a contract want to do just that. And once again, having this in writing in a written contract can prove this. To put this in the context of construction, you may have a contractor that submits a price to undertake some construction work for a developer. The developer then incorporates this price into the contract as part of the offer, which the contractor then signs. This is acceptance. The consideration is the agreed price to undertake the project, and we mentioned that we had a contract, which both parties have signed. That shows clear intent. If we look back to the definition at the start, it tells us that a contract is all about obligations. Under the simple example we just looked at, we know that both the developer and contractor have basic obligations to each other. The obligation of the contractor will be to undertake the construction work, and the obligation of the client would be to pay the agreed sum. This all sounds very simple. However, in reality, contracts are more complicated because there are far more obligations to think about. It's perfectly reasonable to add in more obligations to a construction contract. For example, the developer will want some sort of assurance on the quality and spec of the construction work, and the time frame will obviously be important to them. The contractor would want to know payment terms. When will payments be made? Will this be done on a percentage basis monthly, or will there be milestone payments? And both parties would want to know how to deal with change. What if there's variations? What if a dispute arises? How will it be resolved? The contract is essentially a rule book, and it will set out rules for both parties to follow. The definition at the start also mentioned that a contract is enforced or recognised by law. This means that if a party doesn't perform their obligations, that is, they breach the contract could be enforced by the courts. This can be done via specific performance, where the court orders one party to fulfil their obligations, or where they demand payment of damages, or a combination of both. Simply put, you will need to perform your promises. Let's summarise. A contract is an agreement giving rise to obligations. There needs to be a number of factors or ingredients present for an enforceable contract to exist. Obligations can lengthen a contract but can be useful, and we'll cover where they can be unuseful in other videos. If you are a party to an enforceable contract, then it can be enforced by the courts. Also, please note, this is a starting point. More videos will be added to the channel covering other areas of contract and specifically construction-related issues. Okay, so what now? The usual spiel. Leave a comment, let us know your thoughts on the video. What else would you like to know? Can you suggest some topics for some more videos? If you found this video useful, please subscribe because we'll be adding a lot more.